All right, I guess we are recording. Hey there, my name is Julia Schroeder. Welcome to my little corner of the world where I record 101 Ways of Being, a podcast that is all about discovering your own way to be, about learning, discovering, growing into who we are, and how that is interconnected with our community and all of the things that we are involved with. So for this episode, I've gone back and forth on, excuse me, what I want to talk about, what is really on my heart. And ultimately, I think I sort of want to wing it a little bit. So this might be a little bit all over the place, but I hope that there's some message in here that might resonate with you. But I think I'd like to spend a little bit of this episode chatting about me and sort of why I am doing this. Because, there's a lot of people out there starting podcasts. Obviously, it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And I've never really felt like someone that a lot of people really wanted to hear from. I've always been a very shy person, didn't really put myself out there too much. I mean, in high school, it's like I'd pretty much go most of the day without talking to anyone. And it wasn't until I've gotten older and I've discovered what I'm passionate about that I know I know a little bit where to start. But to be honest, I'm still struggling to get myself back out there in the world. I mean, especially after these past couple of years, it's like I'm already someone that kind of struggles socially a little bit. And so it's even harder these days. But so if you've tuned in so far, you've seen some of the interviews that I've had with people, and it's been awesome to have them on. And I'm really excited for the guests that I have coming up. But today I wanted to just have it be me, just a short, sweet episode, kind of a little bit more of an introduction about me and why I'm doing this. I had a lot of different ideas for this episode. What do I want to talk about? It kind of changes every few days. And there are still some things that I'm going to get into later on. But I'd like to kind of start this episode by just reading a random poem from my notebook. These are unedited, but I kind of just want to go with a random poem out of here. Just kind of start it off, share a little bit of something that I love, and then I'll kind of get into some other things. But yeah, I'm just trying to really be real, share what's on my heart today, and not take it too serious. It is what it is. Doesn't need to be perfect. We're here just hanging out today. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Which poem should I read? Which poem should I read? Which poem should I read? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out which poem I should read. Okay, so this is a working poem. So it's still a work in progress, but I wrote this a few months ago. And I don't know. This is just the one that I feel like reading today. Trust. Pray for that moment to return, a knowing that we will make it through. Trust that you are blooming too, even if you can't see your petals. Trust that the door is still open, even if it felt like a slam in the face just moments ago. Open your heart to trust. Stay open for your soul's return, though it never really left. Even if everything seemed to collapse in its wake, you may not know it now, nor will you ever, perhaps not in this lifetime, but there's still room for you here. There's space left for another on the bench, of warmers and retreaters. Never stop throwing pennies into fountains and wishing upon eyelashes, as if stars in the sky can see everything that you do. Trust that warm water will run through and out the faucet, bringing with it eternal hope for a return home to your heart. How did our ancestors find their ways to be? Now, I'm not claiming to be any sort of historian. If anything, growing up, I really didn't like learning about history. I'm simply sharing some thoughts I've had recently. So our ancestors, the people that came before us, the people that existed in ancient cultures, how did they find their way to be? I mean, of course, they were driven by survival and, continuing to exist, just driven by, I mean, who knows really exactly. But, once communities formed and societies reigned certain lands, communities were built up. Culture flourished in these moments. Culture, well, even if it's a small community, there's always a culture that exists between people, right? And culture has a way of being an integral part of who we are and how we spend our time. And, for some, they found how to balance the give and take of existing as a part of nature. Like native tribes, they had a relationship with they have a relationship with nature that, I mean, I definitely don't right now. I wish I did. I'm trying to create more of a relationship with nature, but it's like in the past and even still today there are people like this, but it's such a way that's not really practiced as much, but really listening to nature, right? They understood the give and take. They understood that they were a part of it. They were still so connected to it. They listened and they learned from whom they knew beside them. While others, they climbed to the top by stepping on everything else on the way up. These are the people that are in power. These are the people that run the world today, in my opinion. But regardless of your position in the world, people have always found ways to reflect, create art, expel their energy. They've found ways to maybe sort of make sense of it all. From ancient Egyptians that, they left behind so much for us to look back on, as well as, the painters during the Renaissance period in Europe. We have so much to look back on and assume what things were like. But it may not always, that may not even always be like an accurate representation, right? I think I watched some sort of documentary about ancient Egypt. This is a side note, but I watched some sort of documentary about it recently where, like in the past, historians and stuff, and archaeologists, they thought that painting, all of the, art that they've discovered with ancient Egyptians, originally they thought like this is a representation of what life was like. But now they're starting to think like maybe this is more what they thought life would be like, what they wanted life to be like, their dream of what life could have been like, So even looking back on the past, we can never have a totally accurate representation of anything because none of us actually lived back then. But anyway, there's still we're not just here by chance, we're not just living in everything has gotten to the point that it has because of people and structures of society, and culture drives so much and art has driven so much. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm exactly getting to here, perhaps, but I don't know. I'm just someone that really likes to take time to reflect on things, and maybe I sit with my emotions a little bit too much, one could say, perhaps. But I really think that taking time to reflect on our own ways of being and the role that we play in society and examining the role that society plays on us can help us get to the bottom of perhaps who we are. It can help us at least get further, getting a little bit past the surface. Because how will we get to the bottom of anything by just staying at the surface of things? So how can we go deeper? And that starts, I think reflecting, and sometimes reflecting, for me, reflecting can be writing in my journal, or it can be talking to somebody. whatever it is, I think that's just important. I don't know. So I kind of wrote a little bit of my journal, a little bit what's on my heart right now. I mean, so every morning I write in my journal, and it's really important practice for me. I would even say has been a little bit life-changing in a way, because it's like having a friend that I can talk to every morning. I just like turn to my notebook, write a few pages. But anyway, I just kind of want to read a little bit of what I wrote. Not that I want to, it's a very private thing, a notebook, but yeah. I have to admit, I've been struggling to pick myself back up lately. Stuck in a foggy daze. Either exhausted or anxious. Is there an in-between? I swear I've been there before, and I can get back to the balance. Whether or not you have someone you can openly talk to about what's on your heart, or you turn to the page, like I do, to write out what you're feeling, finding the space to truly reflect on something, even if it feels super uncomfortable, which it will a lot of the time, it can play a big part in getting to the bottom of your truth, or at least like starting to see some of it. So that way you can really start to recognize, like, where am I holding myself back? Where am I blocking my blessings? Or where am I blocking myself from connecting with other people, or whatever it may be? I think it's important to allow yourself to be open and honest with yourself, and thinking about how can you find ways to intentionally spend your energy. It's like sometimes when I get to these, like lately I've just been feeling like just weighed down, just like going through it, dealing with a lot of past memories that are coming up, and just dealing with the changes of life and whatnot. And I've found and I'm like, oh, why am I just feeling so zapped of energy? And why am I feeling not that great? And it's like, well, maybe it's because I haven't really been putting as much of my energy towards the things that actually are nurturing for me. Yes, I've still been journaling a lot, but I haven't really been eating super well. I've been getting a lot, when I get into certain states where I'm not in the best state of mind, like I start to go into old habits that didn't really serve me, like old coping mechanisms, which include like binge eating cookies. And it's like sometimes I'm kind of trying to start recognizing what my patterns are. And it's like, okay, so now I've started to recognize, like, maybe these are some of the patterns I have. Or with certain people, I'm like, oh, I start to be this way. I put all my energy toward this person instead of putting it toward me. And then after you recognize it, it's like actually making the change is where I sort of start to get to a blocking point in a way. At the beginning of the episode, I said I would kind of explain a little bit more about me. So I guess I'll kind of do some of that. It feels weird. I'm still like getting used to, the talking to a camera. So I'm trying to pretend that I'm actually hanging out with some people. All right. Pretend we're hanging out with people. Mm-hmm. Not that anyone ever okay. So I think the main reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I just really love talking to people. And sometimes I struggle, like, actually in social situations, putting myself out there. And it's crazy, even just, like, editing this show so far, it makes me realize my flaws in communication and where I need to improve on. And it's like, I have to stop being so, like, critical of everything. Okay. So more about me. So I am from Chicago suburbs, born and raised here, but I have lived a little bit all over the place. I went to college in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, lived there for a few years. And then after that, I moved back here and was super lucky to have a bunch of awesome internships. I interned at 2112. Then I got a job with Grassroots California at their Chicago store. And And I realized how much I love meeting people and being involved with these cool events and media and putting stuff out there in the world. But really like connecting with other people being the central focus of why I'm doing this, because I just love meeting people and I love actually having more meaningful conversations that do go deeper about who we are and whatnot. And writing is a huge outlet for me. I love to write and I love to hoop dance and just dance in general. Like I'm always someone that like, you know, you can just catch me dancing in my room any day of the week. I'm really passionate as well about staying connected to your inner kid. Like I'm about to turn 26 years old and I'm trying to still be a kid. Like I'm trying to still enjoy my life, not be weighed down. Of course, that still happens from time to time. But in a way, like as hard as this year with like pandemic and everything has been, like in a way it's kind of provided a lot of blessings as well. Like losing my job in a way was kind of a good thing because it was able to maybe like refocus on like, okay, what am I actually passionate about? And I'm really passionate about writing, connection with people, helping people get their message out. I don't know. I still don't know where I'm going with this episode, so it might just be like a whatever episode, a short little mini-sode. The real good episodes are the ones where I have guests on, because I'd rather hear other people talk than listen to myself talk. So I think I'm going to read one more poem, one more little work in progress, perhaps. Because why not? The seeds of fallen trees. After death, pollen sifts through with the wind, picking up forgotten corpses. What falls down? Do you remember who you were before? It will never exist again the same, but will always exist to twist and crack the yoke. A broken wrist that flings vases, shatters against the wall, breaking the precipice of who you once were. I don't know, reading that out loud, like, it almost like doesn't make sense, but I think that's something that is pretty cool about poetry. It doesn't always make sense, but it's fun. So yeah, this topic of reflecting on things and taking time to think about things and whatever. This is a topic I still want to continue exploring. So this is kind of just like, we're dipping our toes into this topic of this, and maybe this episode doesn't even make sense. As always, I appreciate the feedback. I kind of could have structured a little bit more. So thank you for putting up with me another one of these episode thingy things. My name is Julia Schroeder. I'm so thankful for your support of this show. If you want to give some extra support, please go ahead and maybe hit follow, hit the post bell notification if you'd like to get a notification whenever a new episode comes out. Or you can also go to our website, 101waysofbeing.com, and at the top of the page there's a link to sign up for our newsletter, which goes out with every episode, so every other week. And also find us on social media, 101 Ways of Being. And please, if you like it, share it with somebody, help continue supporting the show. All that. Also started a Discord server if you want to connect with other listeners of the show and connect with me there. The link for that will also be on my website, and you can find it, through social channels as well. I'm still kind of building that up, still dipping my toes in the water of that, so it's a work in progress, but yeah. Thank you for tuning in.